calling to order the December 1st, 2014 regular meeting of the 35th Council of the City of Berkeley. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Here.
Councilmember Edgar.
Here.
Councilmember Kadeko.
Here.
Councilmember Stedman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
Here.
Mayor O'Dwyer.
Here. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Baker.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Kadeko. Are there any changes, additions? Hearing none. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Blanchard.
Yes.
Edgar.
Yes.
Kadeko.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Turbrack.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes, the agenda is approved. Now please stand for the invocation. I see Reverend Tal Sullivan with us.
Let's bow in prayer. God, we come to you in this season of Thanksgiving, and we want to give you thanks for the many blessings that we have received in our lives. The fact that we live in this great nation, in this wonderful city, we have so many blessings we can't even count. But the scripture tells us to give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. And God, you truly are good. And I pray that in this season where people are celebrating between Thanksgiving and moving into Christmas, a time when many are celebrating the greatest gift of all, God, I pray that those who are going through time of mourning and grief because of loss of loved ones or loss of jobs, just many difficulties that they're facing, I pray, God, that they would experience your goodness, because you certainly are good. Thank you, God, for being here in this city, guiding us and helping the decisions that are made here to be wise. God, thank you for blessing us with great leadership in this city. Ask your blessing upon them and their families. I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we come to the citizens' comments portion of tonight's meeting, when you may present your thoughts on issues not included on tonight's agenda. Council members will not engage you in discussion. If your concern needs to be addressed by a member of city staff or a department of the city, please sign your name on the sheet provided at the clerk's table. You may speak on a specific agenda item when it is being considered. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and city of residence.
Gary Polk, proud resident of Berkeley. Just had an experience a few weeks ago, and I wanted to share parts of it with the council. I went through training to for the gift of life, to convince people or help people make a decision on organ donation, and learned some very interesting facts. Every day, 28 people die in the state of Michigan waiting who are unable to receive a donor, an organ, waiting again for a donor. There is no age limit for organ and tissue donating. Heard about a 102-year-old lady who actually donated her corneas, but you can also donate skin. That helps with reconstruction for breast cancer. So there is no age limit. And the other interesting thing is you can affect up to 50 lives when you donate your organs. So I just hope you and council and everybody who's watching this, please consider donating your organs as your tissue and signing or applying online for your organ donor, for the organ donor sticker on your license. I think it's very important and very beneficial to a lot of people, including me. So I'm an organ donor, saved my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Good evening. We're here for a promotion in the Public Safety Department. Jordan? Officer Korbernick was appointed to his position as a public safety officer in 2008. Prior to that, he had been a corrections officer for the Oakland County Sheriff's Department and a project manager in the housing construction industry. Between 2005 and 2008, Jordan was a volunteer police reserve here in Berkeley. He has an associate's degree in criminal justice from Schoolcraft College. He is currently a member of the Oakland County Hazmat team, firearms instructor, and a field training officer. Obviously, he's had a wide variety of experiences both before and since joining the department. Versatility, very important in our line of work. He has shown that in tense, dangerous situations, he has always remained calm and objective. He's an analytical thinker, another important trait. In addition to his obvious job-specific abilities, both in police and fire work, Jordan has consistently shown what are perhaps more important traits. He's a man of absolute integrity. He is dedicated, committed to the job. He has an exceptional maturity level. He's considerate and compassionate in dealing with people and has demonstrated excellent people skills. I'm 100% confident in him and proud to promote him to the rank of sergeant. I know his family's here, his mom and dad are here. They should be proud as well. They must have done a lot very well along the way in raising him. And he has done well since that time. So, Annette?
I, Jordan Kobernick,
I, Jordan Kobernick,
have been duly appointed
have been duly appointed
as a public safety sergeant
as a public safety officer sergeant
for the city of Berkeley.
for the city of Berkeley.
Do hereby solemnly swear
Do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Charter of the City of Berkeley,
the Charter of the City of Berkeley,
and I will perform the duties of my office
and I will perform the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. Thank you. Thank you. He didn't say I'm a man of very few words, so I will keep that going. First, just my family in the back. Just thank you very much, Lisa, Caden. Say hi. Just awesome support staff around me. Thank council. Obviously, you guys are huge supporters of us, and we appreciate that because that trickles down, obviously. So, city manager all the way around. Especially all these guys in the back. Just amazing guys to work with, work for. I've had outstanding mentors here. Some are in the room today. So, thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to the next step. Thank you.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
There goes the audience.
No. Incredible. Yes, what is truly remarkable is the level of support and collegiality in our public safety department. 3/4 of the entire department was here to witness that swearing in. And it shows the loyalty and camaraderie that they have together. And we're all better as a city because of it. Given that, are there anybody else wanting to come to the microphone? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Ms. Boucher, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Approval of the minutes. Matter of approving the minutes of the regular 35th City Council meeting on Monday, November 17th, 2014. Resolution number R4114. Matter of accepting a donation from the Berkeley's Dads Club to the Berkeley Parks and Recreation Department. Resolution number R4214. Matter of recognizing Roseland Park Cemetery for their contribution to the Berkeley Cruise Fest event.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Councilmember
Support.
Eckel, support by Councilmember Edgar. Are there any other concerns, issues here? Hearing none, Ms. Bowers, would you please call the roll?
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Now we move on to the regular agenda. Ms. Bowers, would you please read item number 1 on tonight's regular agenda?
Recognitions, presentations, matter of any recognitions or presentations from the consent agenda.
I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack to read Resolution 4114.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Kirby, if you'd like to step up on behalf of the Dad's Club, please. Thank you. Brings me great pleasure to be able to read this resolution on behalf of the council. A resolution of the council of the city of Berkeley, Michigan, to accept a donation from the Berkeley Dad's Club to the Parks and Recreation Department. Whereas the City of Berkeley Parks and Recreation Department is accepting a donation from the Berkeley Dad's Club for fencing repair and replacement work at Community 1 and Community 2 baseball fields that will cost approximately $30,000, of which the Berkeley Dad's Club will pay in full. And whereas the Dad's Club will be completing work on the backstop, both baselines to the outfield fence, new gates, new wood backstop and baselines, concrete curbs at the opening dugouts, weep holes for drainage, new bottom rails, storage cage, 50-foot pole and net to match an extension of the existing west side of the Community 2 netting. And whereas this work will greatly improve the overall field use as well as protect the residential area from foul balls. And now therefore the City of Berkeley resolves, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Berkeley accept the very generous donation made by the Berkeley Dad's Club to improve community baseball fields 1 and 2. And Section 2, the Parks and Recreation Department and the City Council are extremely grateful for all that the Berkeley Dad's Club does in the city and for this donation to improve the fencing and netting at the community baseball fields. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, December 1st, 2014, Phil O'Dwyer, Mayor. Mr. Kirby, you know, as being a part of the Dad's Club for such a long time, they've been an integral part of this community, certainly when I was growing up and many of us in the city, and to still be so involved and to be able to donate such expensive projects is just tremendous, and the City of Berkeley is very lucky to have such a dedicated organization, and I thank you for being here on behalf of the Dad's Club to formally give us this.
All right. I'd like to say thank you to everybody out here tonight. The club in general has been going since the late 40s. Over the last 10 to 20 years, they've been investing there in the community. It's something that'll keep going. Our budget just keeps increasing when it comes back into to putting back into the ball fields in the area surrounding them. We've got about 1,000 contracts that we serve, so about 1,000 slots that we have ball players every year, most of them from our community. So this money is just generally raised from amongst our community members to then just put back into the ball fields. It's an ongoing process, a yearly item for the upkeep of all the stuff that we do, and then to improve what we already have. So Dad's Club looks forward to doing that, and it's good for the whole community there to keep our ball fields in great shape, as well as the high school teams, and get some youngsters out there playing some ball. That's the key. So I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to do that. Look forward to some future renovations.
Thank
All
you.
right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I've asked Councilmember Kadeco to read R 4214.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the Council of the City of Berkeley, Michigan to recognize Roseland Park Cemetery for their contribution to the Berkeley Cruise Fest event. Whereas the City of Berkeley Parks and Recreation Department has a Cruise Fest committee whose mission is to promote and plan the activities surrounding the Cruise Fest Car Parade for the residents of Berkeley and Woodward Dream Cruise merchandise booth sales, and whereas Roseland Park Cemetery provides use of their property for the staging of the popular car parade, and whereas Roseland Park Cemetery provides use of their property for Woodward Dream Cruise merchandise booth sales, and whereas Roseland Park Cemetery staff work alongside City of Berkeley staff and volunteers to create a safe, welcoming, and memorable experience for attendees. Now, therefore, the City of Berkeley resolves, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Berkeley recognize the generosity of Roseland Park Cemetery by allowing use of their property for the Cruise Fest Car Parade and Woodward Dream Cruise merchandise booth sales. And Section 2, the generosity shown from Roseland Park Cemetery shall be beneficial by all who attend Cruise Fest events and Woodward Dream Cruise. And Section 3, the Parks and Recreation Department and City Council are grateful for the efforts that the staff of Roseland Park Cemetery and for their generous contributions to improve and enhance the events for the City of Berkeley. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, December 1st, 2014. Phil O'Dwyer, Mayor. I'd like to say a few words because I've been on this committee for minimum 15 years, both as a resident and as a council liaison. And we couldn't do it without your cooperation. To stage those cars in the parking lot while you have your events going on also, and then to watch our cars exit one by one, 400 cars, and your event is watching our event. It's just a great experience. We look forward to it every August. We get 1.5 million people from around the area, from all over the world for Cruise Fest, 40,000 classic cars, and 400 of those come out of the cemetery, and we really, really want to thank you.
Well, thank you, Council Member, for acknowledging us. On behalf of Midwest Memorial Group and my colleagues at Roseland Park Cemetery, we truly enjoy working together with Berkeley. I had a chance to work with Tom this year for the first time, and it was a very, very good experience. We got some things ironed out, got things flowing a little better, and it really helped. Again, on behalf of all of my colleagues and coworkers at Roseland Park, we appreciate the generosity that you've shown towards us. Thank you.
We thank you very much. And now you can, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate all your cooperation.
And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 2 on tonight's agenda?
Resolution number R4314, matter accepting that audited 2013-14 comprehensive annual financial report. CAFR.
Is there a motion to approve R4314?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Councilmember Baker with support by Councilmember Blanchard. Mr. Sessa.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and to members of the public. Thank you for joining us this evening. You know, Mayor and City Council, this is probably one of the most important reports that you will receive throughout the year. As written in the memo that was prepared by our Finance Director, Mr. David Sabuda, to me, I'd like to read just 2 things that are key for this report. One is that this is done in accordance with Section 9.8 of the City Charter. Now that is important because under that section, it requires the city that an independent audit be made of all the accounts of the City of Berkeley as required by state law. And then secondly, under Public Act 2 of 1968 as amended, it requires that the chief administrative officer of a municipality with a population of more than 4,000 file with the state of Michigan an annual audited financial report with an independent audit opinion on said documents. Also, in accordance with Public Act 2 of 1968, it requires that our city disclose any material deviations by the local municipality in accordance with generally accepted accounting practices or from applicable rules and regulations of any state, department, or agency. And with that, I'm very pleased to present to each of you two requirements. Here is the audit report itself, which I'll pass out to the City Council. Now, you'll receive a report from our auditors, a much more summarized a portion of this report. And one more? One more. Okay, there we go. So, one is everyone have one? Okay, one is the 2013-2014 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report with an independent audit opinion, and it's dated 11/17/2014. And then you'll be receiving also a copy of a memo written on 11/17/14 from the independent auditors, and that's a report to the City Council. So with that, so that you can receive a summary report of what all that is saying, our auditors are here with us this evening, and Beth Bailey and Lisa Moneta will be the ones who will give the presentation. And with that, I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you very much. Good evening. We're very excited to be here. And if you have not had a chance to look at the financial statement, we will be covering it sort of in a summary fashion. But if you have a chance to take a look at it in a little bit more detail later and you have any questions, please feel free to call me or call Lisa, and one of us will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. You know, the financial statement continues to grow in size. It does not get smaller. So some of that was on purpose when a couple years ago you decided to do the more extended version of a financial statement. There's a lot of additional information in the back that is above and beyond the really basic requirement that the state of Michigan has. So you submit this to the Government Finance Officers Association for them to review to see whether or not it qualifies for their award for excellence in financial reporting. So that is really puts you kind of in an elite status in terms of communities and how they're going about reporting their finances. If you take a look at the financial statements again, we'll be going through it in a slide format here. You'll see that just in an overview, you did just break even this year. You added about $28,000 to your fund balance. Last year, again, you didn't add huge amounts to your fund balance, but you added, and that's really, in today's environment, that's really what you're looking for, is to maintain or even try to add a little bit to be able to build up your reserves as much as possible. In looking at where you ended up compared with your budget, you actually had budgeted to use a little bit of fund balance this year, so you came out better than the budget. And that wasn't because you had any sort of revenue windfall. Your revenues were actually under budget by about $120,000, but you were able to still come in with a little bit of add to the fund balance because you kept your expenditures in line. If you look at your budget versus actual on the expenditures, every department came in under budget. So you're really holding your own, you're living within your means, and in this day and age, that's about all that you can really do, is try to be as fiscally prudent as possible. You don't have any fund deficits in any funds. Most of the slides that we deal with today are looking at the general fund, but you do have a whole slew of additional special revenue type funds that are for a particular purpose, and none of those have any deficits. And you were able to shore up some of the other funds that simply don't get enough from those dedicated revenue sources to continue to operate. So you've been able to really shore those up, so that's definitely good news. Other positives, when we look at the financial statements, your debt, you don't really have a lot of debt to begin with, but you were able to pay down about $1 million worth of debt, which is good. You also made some investments in water lines, equipment, your park property, roads, parking lot, building improvements, and so forth. A lot of communities we're seeing are putting these things off because they just simply don't have the resources to do it. So the fact that each year you're able to make some sort of investment in the overall city is really a positive. On the challenge side, we'll have one slide. Seems like every year we're up here talking about the retirement obligation with a new GASB that's out there, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB number 67, and next year GASB number 68. That will only highlight the whole pension issue that's faced by all communities. So we'll talk about where you're at with that. And then OPEB, which is your other post-employment benefits. Similarly there, that's going to be a challenge going forward. You've been funding at a level that you can afford to fund, and you do have some money built up, which is a positive as compared to some of the other communities that have not been able to put any money aside. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. We're going to go over the slide package, and then after that, I'll come back and cover the letter that you should have as well. And we'll try to keep it as brief as possible.
Thanks, Beth. Good evening. As Beth indicated, our slides will mainly focus on the general fund for the City of Berkeley, since that is the most significant operating fund for the city. The first slide, we take a look at a 3-year history of revenue in the general fund, broken down by the various categories, the most significant of which being property taxes, which of course is something we've talked a lot about the last few years, with the significant decline, about 15% when all was said and done over a period of 3 or 4 years, that the city's taxable value in total declined. So we saw that revenue source being significantly challenged. We did have a slight increase in taxable value for the fiscal year 2014, just around 2%. Which is consistent with slight increase that's expected for next year. But also, as we've talked about, that recovery of taxable value is going to be a slow one. It will go up much slower than it went down, just in part of the slowed recovery, but then also the limitations of Proposal A in Headley in Michigan that limits that recovery to the lesser of 5% or inflation. So we will see that recovering, but very slowly. However, we do see property tax revenue increasing in 2014 as a result of the additional millages that were approved with the charter amendment. So we see in total revenue increased from 2013 to 2014 by about $1.5 million, mainly attributable to that property taxes. When we look at the other categories of revenue, there weren't any very significant fluctuation in any of those. And as Beth mentioned, all of it was anticipated in the budget. In total, you were within about 1% of what was budgeted. So certainly all of that was as expected. On the next slide, we turn our attention to the expenditures of the general fund. Once again, a 3-year history broken down by the various categories. In total, expenditures did increase by about $1.5 million, very consistent with the increase in revenue that we saw on the first slide that we looked at. Taking a look at the different categories, really the first 5 categories, general government, district court, public safety, down through recreation, health, and welfare, those were, again, relatively consistent with 2013. We did see some increases in retiree health care costs, both the pay-as-you-go amount for current cost of retiree health care, and then also the city did increase slightly the amount that's going toward pre-funding of that retiree health care liability, excuse me. So that funding, again, you're paying what you're able to, which there's many communities that aren't able to make any amount of pre-funding, but still less than what the actuary would tell you should be set aside to fully fund that liability over time. The largest increase in expenditures we see down in the debt service capital outlay and transfers out line along the bottom. That increased about $1 million. That was as a result of various things, including some of the capital asset land purchases that Beth mentioned, and then also the general fund sending money to major streets and local streets and other funds in order to support those operations.
Forgot to mention, feel free to interrupt us as we're going through if you have any questions on the slide that we're on.
So as a result, the revenue did exceed expenditures by about $30,000. So we did have just a slight increase in fund balance in 2014. But really what's important to see on this slide is the trend. So we did start to see a pretty significant decline in fund balance from starting in 08 to 09 and then to 2010. But we can see that the city reacted to that, cut costs, and was looking at a longer term financial plan and was able actually to turn that around even when the property taxes were at their lowest points and start to rebuild that to a point where it's at just about $3.2 million at the end of 2014. This slide takes a look at that $3.2 million and breaks it down, since not all fund balance is created equal. We do have certain restraints that are placed on fund balance, so the 3.2 million isn't all available to be the rainy day fund, as some communities will refer to it as. So there is $300,000, $318,000 that we refer to as non-spendable, because it relates to inventory, a long-term advance receivable, which will be collected over a longer period of time, and also some expenses that the city has prepaid. So the cash has gone out the door and the expenditure will be recognized in the next fiscal year. There's $120,000 of fund balance that's restricted. So because of its source, it's from a dedicated property tax millage or otherwise restricted by an external party for what it can be used for. And then the remaining, there is $5,000, which is assigned related to land purchase, since there is still a remaining payment on that. And then the remaining $2.7 million is unassigned, which represents about 26% of the city's annual budget, or about three months' worth of expenditures. Lastly, we focus our attention onto the water and sewer fund. Just one quick overview. In the first column, we have the revenue of about $5.6 million, which actually is very consistent with the previous year. There were some increase to the rates charged, but that was offset by a slight decrease in the usage. So all in all, revenue was pretty much flat with the previous year. Expenses were about $4.5 million, which were up just slightly over the previous year. So we once again see the Water and Sewer Fund adding about $1 million to its net assets. However, it's important to keep in mind, as we see in that last column there, the $13.8 million of equity in that fund, the vast majority of that, about $10 million, is invested in the capital assets within that fund. So certainly not what we would refer to as available to be spent. The last slide we have is focusing attention on the funded status of the various benefit plans. The first two columns are related to the pension plans within the city, the last one looking at retiree health care, or OPEB. And one of the reasons that we point this out is that there is a new accounting standard that will be adopted next year for the city, whereby the city will need to record a liability in the full accrual statements, so the government-wide statements, not in your general fund or your other fund statements, but the government-wide statements that were new with GASB 34, for the difference for your actual funded position at the end of the fiscal year. So it will compare the actual market value of all of the investments that have been set aside for purposes of paying for pensions, compare that to a calculation done by the actuary as of year end, and the difference between the two gets recorded as a liability, which is different from the current accounting, which tells you as long as you're paying what the actuary tells you to pay every year, you don't have a liability to be recorded. So that will be a significant change to the reporting within the city's financial statements. That is next year again, but if we look at the funded status as to get an idea of what that liability could be next year, when we look at the general employees' pension, comparing the assets to the liabilities, there's about a $6.4 million gap between the two, that the liabilities are greater than the assets. Similarly, in the Public Safety Pension Trust, that's about a $3 million difference as of June 30th of 2014. So that's a little over $9 million of liability that will be recorded that hasn't been reflected in the past. We do also include the information for the retiree health care plan. This information is a little bit older. It's as of June 30th of 2009. The city's currently in the process of having a more recent valuation performed, so that'll give us a little better picture because you have been making pre-funding contributions, so those assets in orange are really a little bit closer to a little bit over $3 million, but you can see that's still a very big gap between what's calculated as the liability and what the assets are. This new accounting doesn't apply to retiree health care yet, but it will a few more years down the road, so that's why we bring it to your attention now, so that it's not a surprise when that comes around, that we'll be bringing that liability much more to the forefront than it has been in past years. And that concludes our very brief overview on the financial statements.
Before you continue, so with these now coming into us having to formally account for in each of the audits. Now, is this going to significantly impact what our audit looks like in terms of the outlook? Because, I mean, I know that we're funding some of these. I don't know that anybody has all of these fully funded. Some people might, but that would be pretty impressive.
Not too many.
You know, I guess just what is the implication for us, immediately? Is this going to, really hamper what we've been doing or make it look like we're worse off than maybe we actually are?
Yeah, probably the best place to look for that is if you turn in your financial statement to page 12. In the big thick document there. So this is the full accrual government-wide statements that Lisa referred to. So just the way that this is set up, first of all, the business type activities would be your water and sewer. I believe the ice arena is in there as well. So that's your business type activities. But this governmental activities column is your general fund, your street funds, your grant funds, all the different funds rolled into one. But then it also includes capital assets and long-term debt. So if you look at this and you just look at the net position at the bottom here, you'll see that currently the net position of the city as a whole in the governmental column, you have $10.5 million that's invested in capital assets. The rest of this, which is about $4 million, is earmarked. A lot of it's earmarked for streets, public safety, sanitation, et cetera. You've got $1.5 million on a citywide basis that is considered to be your unrestricted net assets. Now, next year, when GASB 68 comes into play, you'll be required to show the difference. So that first column there, that's your MERS pension plan. Your money for the general employees is in the MERS plan. It's always been a year behind in reporting. So we've got June 30th, 2013 numbers there, but that difference is about $6 million. And then for your public safety pension, because you administer that program internally, in-house, you had to implement what's called GASB 67, which had an implementation date effective June of 2014. So you had to get an updated valuation. There were timing issues. We had to work very closely with the actuary and with the city to make this happen in time to do the audit report. So that's why that one's a more recent date. But that difference is about $2.9 million or so. So when you add those two numbers together, $9 million, if in kind of the simplest terms, that $9 million, let's forget about water and sewer and assume it's all general government, you would have a $9 million liability here, which means this unrestricted number would go from a 1.5 positive to a 7.5 negative. So next year when you look at these financial statements, you're going to see a very large negative number there. And there have been a lot of ongoing discussions about, what does this mean for bonding and so forth. And the way that the bonding agencies or rating agencies look at this is all of this information was already in the financial statements. It was just in the footnotes, in the narrative part. It wasn't showing up as a number right on the balance sheet. Now it's going to be reflected there. So technically, nothing changed from last year or from this year to next year. It's I don't want to say it's a paper entry, but it's there. It's always been a liability. It just never was fully recognized on the balance sheet. So we don't want you to get overly concerned about it, but it is, like for instance, if you were looking at a financial statement for a corporation, that's the way they would be reflecting it, the total liability. And so I think the GASB said we should kind of be following suit because there really is a liability, so we should go ahead and put it here. The thing to keep in mind is that on your general fund and your street funds and all of the different funds that you're preparing a budget for, that is still going to be budgeted for your annual payment. You're not going to see big negatives in your general fund. Your budget process, everything else is exactly the same. This is more an exercise of get the information from the actuary. We work with finance to get it into the financial statement. We'll be here next year telling you, don't get too worried about this big negative number because it was there last year, it just wasn't on your balance sheet. So it shouldn't impact your bond rating, but it really is a better reflection of the long-term picture, of the health of the city. where your general fund is a short term. How much do we get in 1 year in taxes and revenue sharing? What do we spend in 1 year? This is more of the longer term focus.
Thank you.
And if I may follow up on that comment, remember, each and every year, we're chipping away at paying that mortgage down. And we will be working at that, and hopefully those two bars will come together eventually. And we're working constantly at those two numbers, especially through assumptions and through financing.
Well, I know, and that's kind of part of why I asked, because I think the finance department, city manager, and council, we've made a fairly conscious effort to try to fund those things. And now, with the change in Gatsby, it makes it look like, we're 9 million. We got a big negative sign there now, and it changes perception. Is really the big issue. You said it's more a matter of semantics. It's always been there, but now it's going to have a big negative, or it's going to be red, and that kind of changes the perception for the residents and potentially bond ratings.
I can also follow up with the 09 report for the OPEB liability. Next council meeting, you'll see the newest report, the latest and greatest coming on. So you'll see that next council meeting. And we worked very hard at that also to get that set and ready to go. As you remember the last time we did the 09 report, we were in the middle of negotiations and healthcare changed. So we were able to, under the 09, stretch that out a little bit longer than the norm because of the change in benefits, which decreased our liability, and so now we're coming into the 12-year, which is June 30th, 12, and we'll have a whole new set of assumptions and sets of liability and asset numbers for you to look at next meeting.
Any other questions on the numbers? I'll go through this letter really quickly. Does everybody have the letter in front of them? So there's 4 sections here. The first section, which starts on page 3, these are, this is just the area of the letter where we talk about any internal control related matters. We had no accounting type matters, so great job there for the finance department. We only had one item, and it relates to segregation of duties. And this item just has to do with the IT system and administrative access. So down at the bottom of page 3, we talk about that there's certain users that have administrative access, which means you can access the system kind of behind the scenes, and also have access to post transactions. But we do go through and do testing, and we did not come up with any problems there or see any transactions that were being posted. It's just that if you have this type of situation, it's kind of an automatic item that we have to report out to you. So ideally, if you had a bunch of people and you could have one person doing each thing, we'd have the user access separate from the ability to post transactions in the system. But short of that, we just recommend that all activity is logged and that the logging function just be reviewed on a periodic basis. So again, we didn't see anything there. It's just something that we're required to report. Starting on page 4, section 2, this is sort of our report out on the audit process. The first part just talks about what is an audit. So we're talking about or giving our opinion on whether or not the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. The audit went very smoothly. We followed the planned scope and timing that we had set out early on. On page 5, we talk about accounting estimates at the top. The only real numbers in your financial statement that are based on estimates, significant numbers, would be your retiree health care obligation, which is this large blue item there. Again, it's several years old, and you're going to be getting a new one anyway. But also your pension liability, so the blue sections on the pension. And what we're required to do as auditors is just look at the methodology that your specialists, in this case your actuaries, use to come up with those numbers, make sure we're comfortable with the numbers that the city is giving to them to do the work, and that we're comfortable with the assumptions that they're applying to those numbers. And so we did not have any issues there. Nothing else really on that letter. Over on page 7, we start section 3. We do have a couple of other recommendations. One has to do with the public safety pension trust. So these assets in the orange there, those are handled by, obviously, there's an outside trustee that's used to safekeep and account for that investment activity. And the city is accounting for all of that investment activity that takes place during the year at the end of the year, kind of making one big entry to put it all into the financial statements. You're accounting for your pieces of it. Anytime you write checks to the pensioners, make tax distributions and so forth. Our recommendation is just that you consider recording that activity that's taking place at the trustee level on a regular basis, monthly or quarterly, just as another kind of double check on what they're doing. You're getting reports, there's a board that's looking at them, there's outside consultants looking at them. So we're not overly concerned, but just kind of in a perfect world as an added control. At the bottom of page 7, we talk about IT general controls. And this has to do, just one bullet point here on user access. We're just recommending that there be a formal process to review the user access of each employee. Could be initiated by the supervisor. Okay, these certain employees have access to which parts of the system, and is that appropriate and necessary for the job that they're doing? Just to make sure there's not unauthorized access.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you guys for putting both of those items in there, this one and the prior one as well, about the segregation of duties. As we find technology becoming more pervasive in how we run our operations, these kinds of controls become that much more important. And so one of the things I celebrate, these make sense. I do these in my day job as well. We have quarterly periodic user access reviews that we do, and it's a process just like this. It's good, and I have every confidence, and you guys have helped investigate through your testing as well, that we do what we're supposed to do with this. This just gives us the audit trail and the proper controls in place to make sure that the system itself won't let us down. So I applaud both of these and fully support doing whatever we can do to implement these to full effect.
Yes, we are looking at that, Your Honor, with our IT coordinator, making sure, and we'll do department by department as recommended.
That's great. Thank you.
Over on page 8, we've already talked about the new pension standards. So I don't think we need to go into that anymore. Down at the bottom of page 8, there are new rules that are coming into play. They're actually effective December 26th, 2014. So in 25 days. I know it's an odd date, but, and you might be looking at this saying, well, we haven't had to have a federal audit in a while, so this doesn't really apply. It really does. So these new requirements did a few things. Number one, they increased the audit threshold. So it used to be if you got $500,000 of federal money that came through, and that could be drug forfeiture money, COPS grant, some types of water and sewer grants that you could get, community development block grant. If you had $500,000 or more, you needed a compliance audit. Now they've raised that threshold to $750,000, so that's the good news. The bad news over on page 9 is that they also added in some new requirements regardless of how much money you get. So if you get $10 passed through to you from CDBG, you technically are falling under these new requirements, under the cost principles and the administrative requirements. And you might say, well, but if we're not subject to a compliance audit, how would they ever know? Well, they can come out, a lot of the granting agencies come out regardless of the dollar amount, and they can do monitoring visits. So we wouldn't be the ones catching it because you wouldn't be hiring us to do it unless you're over $750,000, but they could always come out and that could put funding at risk. So there's new cost principles as to what's allowable, and it isn't necessarily that it's more stringent or less stringent, it's just different. So you need to understand what is and isn't allowable. There's also some more reporting around time and effort if you're charging any sorts of payroll costs to any of the grants, and then indirect costs where maybe before you weren't charging an indirect cost because it was too much of a bother. Now there's sort of a de minimis methodology in play that you might want to take advantage of. You can charge up to 10% as long as you have room in the grant of indirect costs without having to really justify those or document where those dollars are coming from. And then there's some additional administrative requirements as well. So really the key here is just to understand them because they do kick in for any new grants that you get after December 26th of this month. So if you have grants that are running out, you're under the old rules. But as soon as you sign a new grant agreement, you're under the new rules. So you could technically be under, both depending on the calendar for your grants. We have some webinars out there that are archived if you missed them the first time around that go through it. They're pretty short, like an hour, give you a really good overview. Down at the bottom of page 9, we talk about revenue sharing. The bottom line on revenue sharing is you always were getting a constitutional piece, which is the bulk of what you're getting. It's like $1.1 million. And then you also got this EVIP money, which was about $170,000 for Berkeley. And you had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that. Bottom line is you don't have to jump through as many hoops. There's still some requirements, but they're not, they were ever changing, and some of them were really difficult to comply with, and you were kind of racking your brain to come up with something to do just to meet this requirement, even though it maybe didn't make a lot of sense from an overall perspective. So that's the good news, is you don't have to do a lot of that anymore. Overall, your two pieces, constitutional and instead of EVIP, now it's called City Village Township Revenue Sharing Program. Between the two of those, it's going up about 2.5%. Personal property tax on page 10, we've talked about this in the past. We're already kind of in the midst of this, so I won't spend a lot of time on that unless anybody has a question. We've got a couple of pages of detail on that. On page 12, we talk about retro pay prohibition. So last year we would have talked about the fact that communities were prohibited from paying retro pay. So if you have a contract that expires, and let's say it was dragging on, the negotiations were going on for the next 6 months or a year, you are prohibited from going back and paying retro pay once the contract was settled. And there was some legislation that had been out there working its way through the legislature, and it actually did pass and was signed into law that would exempt any contracts that are subject to 312 arbitration, which basically are your public safety contracts. Those now can have retro pay provisions in them, so just to keep that in mind. Down at the bottom of page 12, there's a Senate bill that was making its way through. I don't know with lame duck if this is really the highest priority. We're hoping it kind of goes away, but it would move the audit deadline. So right now, this audit that you're accepting tonight is due to the state by December 31st. It's 180 days after year end. The state is looking at moving that up to be 150 days after year end, which would be November 30th for you. So everything would just have to be accelerated a little bit. And with all of these seems like we're getting all of these new requirements all the time, and your finance department is very well staffed, but that is not the case in a lot of communities. They'd be really hard pressed to meet 150-day deadline. So we've talked at some of the hearings, and we think that we've hopefully been successful in not having to go through that change. And then on page 13, there we've got some talk about healthcare reform. That's coming up here really quickly, and I know that the finance director has been really involved in that, working with city manager's office on understanding it, seeing what types of changes you need to make, what's the impact going to be. So I won't go into a lot of detail on that. I wanted to make sure before we left too that I also thanked David, Jane, also Lori and Sue from the finance area were extremely helpful to us, as were all of the departments during the audit. It went very smoothly this year. Any questions, concerns?
Councilmember Blanchard.
Just a quick one. This new rule on governing government management of federal programs, do you anticipate, after you looked over our operation, it will have any significant internal controls activities that we'll have to change or anything like that?
I mean, off the top of my head, I'd really have to, a lot of them are around purchasing, the process that you use for purchasing. So it kind of gets into the nitty gritty of things in terms of like what's bid, what is negotiated, you just need to get quotes. There's all sorts of different thresholds for things like that. There's a lot of different approvals and things that are needed along the way. So I know that we're doing a session for the Michigan purchasing, do you know what it's called? Purchasing Officers Association, which sounded like a statewide thing, so I don't know if you have someone here from the city that participates in that. So that'll be coming up. We can also send you the materials that are pretty, do you have them?
I have the materials, yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty nitpicky, you know, some of the things. And I mean, I'm hopeful that they'll be a little bit lenient the first year as everybody's learning the new rules. Plus, with the changing right in the middle of the year, it's a little bit odd there, but I wouldn't want to count on them being lenient, so.
Based on past history. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. More of just a comment than a question. Two comments. First, gratitude. Thank you for your work here. I look forward to these each year. It helps us affirm the direction that we're headed and the way that we're going about getting there. And so this is very affirming, both in all the positive things that you found and also the opportunities to improve. We've mentioned several of those already, and grateful for that. And just as a small side note, you mentioned the EVIP rules having been restructured and kind of moved past that small little tidbit. I think many of you know that it's our very own state senator, retiring John Papageorge, that introduced and helped pass the legislation to relieve this from not only Berkeley's burden, but across the whole state. So, you know, that experiment has moved on, and we have a little bit of a local connection to.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, I was really trying to be kind. So, but
it had good intentions, but it kind of ran its course, and it was time to move on to something else. So.
Thank you,
Mr. Sessom.
Oh, I'll let the councilman go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank both of you, too, for the hard work that you've worked with the finance department. You always do a masterful job. Just out of curiosity, what is the purpose of moving it from 150 to 150 from 180?
Well, you don't want to get me going on this, but the reason that was set forth, it was tie-barred in with some school legislation that was going through, and the schools always have had a quicker due date. I think they've had, is it November 15th is the due date for schools, and they wanted to move that to October 15th, I believe, and they settled on October 31st, which is still pretty aggressive. With the cities, you know, I think somebody just thought, hey, if that's good for the schools, that's good for the cities too. Let's move them up a month as well. And a lot of the talk was around letting the state know earlier about communities that were struggling. So if you have a 6-month, you know, let's say as of June 30th, you had some huge deficit and the state doesn't find out about it for 6 months, that was their concern. And we sort of said, well, yeah, but if you find out about it after 5 months versus 6 months, especially with the fact that most of the communities that we're talking about, most cities are June year end. So for the month of December, I don't know how much is getting done, you know, anyway. And we've had some audits. When your audit goes up to the state, if they have any questions or concerns about it, they'll send a letter with some bullet points. Hey, we'd like to follow up on these things. We sometimes get those months after the fact. So we kind of lobbied that, hey, you know, I don't know that you're looking at them when they come in right away after 6 months, let alone 5 months. And knowing about a deficit, I mean, the community knows it. So there are some safeguards in there that if they keep it at 180 days or 6 months, there's still some safeguards in there that if you're passing a budget that you believe is going to end in a deficit, or if you know you're going to end the year in a deficit, you are supposed to notify the state, and they're supposed to let you know if they want it in 150 days. But you shouldn't, as long as you keep doing what you're doing and maintaining your fund balance, you shouldn't have to worry about that. So we kind of felt like you're sort of penalizing everybody to try to get at some information on a few.
Thank you. Mr. Sessom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, would like to express my appreciation to Plant Moran. They did an excellent job. I know Lisa Manella and Beth, they're both amazing. The accountants that worked with us, I think they kept us on our toes. I know that the finance department was prepared and ready to work with them, so I'm very pleased with the work that our finance department did as well. And as I mentioned earlier, the audit is one of the most key documents that a city receives. I know that Beth mentioned some webinars that's available to you to take a look at your leisure. It's been a while since we've gone back, but maybe in the year to come, we'll do a work session between the city council and the auditors. Again, just to give us an update on how to understand the audit. I know a lot of people are a little put off when they look at all these numbers and perhaps a little concerned that they're not reading it properly. But the audit is it's quite simple once you understand how to read it and where to go to. And it's a very good document that that explains in real terms, how a city is doing. So with that, again, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again to Plant Moran. Thank you. Great job.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Before you leave, as city manager just mentioned, this is obviously a very important document, and it's something that we really look at, everybody on council, all the department heads. But for the residents that don't necessarily go through everything here and necessarily understand everything that's in here, if you could just very basically, in non-financial jargon whatsoever, are we good, bad, are we positive, negative? I mean, just get something.
One of those, right?
Yeah, I would say
I'll be good with this, too.
it's a thumbs up for a couple of reasons. One, when we're here doing the audit, we don't have any surprises. So the finance department keeps a very good handle throughout the year on where things are, so things don't creep up that are surprises. So that means that your system is working, so that's a big positive. Secondly, you've been able to maintain and even grow your fund balance a little bit during really difficult times where, as Lisa mentioned, property taxes are your biggest revenue source, and they're only going to inch up by inflation forever unless something changes with Proposal A and Headley and the way they work together. So to be able to add to your fund balance means that you're really being prudent with your dollars. And then when I look at where you're at for your fund balance, so you have all sorts of funds, none of them are in a deficit, but if you look at the general fund, the one slide that Lisa had showed your fund balance and expressed as a percentage of your expenditures, it's about 26%. And our guideline is always 20, 25, 30%, because that's what gives you enough cushion to weather a downturn. And you can't cut it so close because a lot of these revenues, it's not like they come in exactly, during the time period that you're spending it. So you need that cushion for budget shortfalls, for downturns and so forth. So you're right where you should be in terms of your fund balance. So I'd say definitely thumbs up.
Good. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to say thank you very much, Beth and Lisa, for all your hard work. The audit team was great. They really meshed well with the staff.
Good.
And it was really a joy to have you guys in, and it worked out really, really well. And I also want to thank staff. Without staff, they really, every day, they work hard at it. Internal controls, booking the transactions. Lori and Sue, Brian, the whole staff, including all the department heads and the departments. It's truly a team effort to get to where we are today. So thank you, and thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm
Thank you.
certainly glad to see the thumbs up sign. Our processes and our safeguards are all in place. Our expenditures are very well managed.
Yes.
But the people at home know something else. They know that we have roads that are in serious need of work. They know that we have city infrastructure that needs a lot of attention. They know that our informational technology also needs significant help. So with the thumbs up, it comes really at a price. We have delayed expenditures on essential items. And so looking forward, we as a council are going to have to think about ways of resolving our road issue, our infrastructure, and our IT needs. So that is going to be the challenge for next year and the years to come.
Yeah.
But for now, the thumbs up is a welcome sign. Thank you for all you've done for our city.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Boucher, we're going to change the direction and read item number 3, please.
Resolution number R4414, matter of approving the amendment to the intergovernmental CATV agreement between the City of Berkeley and ICA.
Is there a motion to approve R4414?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Edgar with support by Councilmember Kadeckle. Mr. Sess.
Now, Council, you did receive a very lengthy report that explains how this agreement came to be. But just for the viewing members out there, very, very briefly, ICA is the name of our cable franchise authority, and it consists of 11 member communities, and we've been an authority for more than 30 years. And what this resolution is now asking us is to consider allocating some dollars so that we can now pay for what they call a membership fee. In the past years, because of some funding that had been received from ICA, we did not have to pay for this membership fee. As a matter of fact, we didn't do it for more than 30 years. Now that number has gone down, and we need to put some dollars aside to do this. The purpose of ICA is to monitor the administration of our cable franchise contracts, and that includes Comcast, Wide Open West, and AT&T. And then they also take a look at and work with Community Media Network, or CMN, as some of you may recognize. And we do get assistance from CMN when we need assistance with regards to any kind of cable programming or taping of events and things of that nature. So CMN is there for us for assistance. So now, in order for us to continue to have an authority to help us review some of these documents, they are now asking the 11 member cities for some dollars, and it's all based in accordance to population, or I should say the franchise fee and population. And as you can see in the report that we provided for you, you can see the amount for each of the 11 communities, and they all vary. For the city of Berkeley, we're looking at $2,050, and that consists of $1,050 for the franchise fee and population, and then everyone has a base fee of $1,000. So for us, that adds up to $2,050. We are recommending you to consider this request. City Council, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know that the city attorney has reviewed this agreement before you, and I will let him respond to any questions that you may have regarding the agreement. I would like for us to at least consider this first year. I'd like to sit down with ICA a little further to make sure that these funds are being used accordingly. I personally have some concerns with ICA, but I do understand that in this first year, they're looking at I guess a consolidation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Attorney. This is between Comcast and one other cable franchise authority or company, I should say. I don't know their name, but they're looking.
Time Warner.
Time Warner is looking to combine, and so as they put this agreement together, these funds will be used to examine that agreement and to make sure that the cities receive the appropriate payments. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city attorney and see if he has anything else to add. Mr. Starren?
Not really much to add, other than just to, I guess, expand just a little bit on what Ms. DeSessa was saying. This certainly is a new request that you and the other ICA member communities are receiving, this notion of membership fee. And I think it's something that we will want to examine carefully on an ongoing basis to make sure that it makes sense. The other thing I was going to say is certainly the landscape has changed considerably over the years. ICA certainly has played a vital role in cable communications and the negotiation of the franchise agreements, and at some point they were have served the role sort of as ombudsmen, and
clearinghouse for complaints and troubleshooters and a lot of things. And over time, their role has changed, and that we have the established franchise agreements. There's no indication that we have any new players or providers coming on the scene. For the most part, the cable subscribers deal directly with the cable companies in regard to customer service and complaints and billing issues and that sort of thing. And perhaps most importantly, we have had a change in our state law with Public Act 480 and these uniform franchise agreements and so on. There's really not a whole lot to negotiate these days. We fill in a couple of blank lines on the state prescribed uniform form, and we go from there. So there still are some services ICA plays, but I think it's just something you're going to watch as we go along. It's basically make sure that the benefits match up with the costs that you're expending.
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had 3 quick questions. First, is this budgeted, or can we make room for it? So that was my first question.
That's what I was gonna mention. As part of the other things I need to mention is that this is not a budgeted item that comes before you. So that if the city council considers this favorably at the next council meeting, we'll put together a budget adjustment for you so that you can see the change with that. And then just so that the viewing public knows what ICA stands for, I know that name. It stands for Intergovernmental Cable Communications Authority, hence ICA. Thanks.
Thanks. My second question, if I may, was, so we mentioned the 11 communities, as I saw in the material here. I imagine there are 10 other conversations much like this occurring around the same time with those other communities. What would be the ramifications or implications if any of them chose, for whatever reason, to not opt in? Would our fees go up? Would they just get to coast? How would that work?
Well, that's a very good question. We really don't know. We're just going to each community right now. I know that there are some communities that are very hesitant about doing this because, as the city attorney mentioned, of all the legislative changes that have occurred. So this may come back to us again, if they don't all agree. Right now, I don't really have a good feel. I can tell you that there are some like me that have some concerns and may not agree with the methodology that was put together by the ICA board. Now, having said that, please know that the ICA board did look at this and they are recommending it to their communities, which is why we're bringing it to you today. But I don't have any answer yet, and hopefully soon. Now, this has to come, or payment is due by December 31st of each year. So I'm asking, at least for this first year, for us to do this, and then again, we'll come back again. But by then, I think I'll have a better feel as to how the cities are going to address this. But I really don't have an answer for you at this point in time.
Thank you for that, and my intent is to support this tonight because I do think that we have gotten value from that, and I'd like to at least see. And that kind of gets to my third question. I think you're actually kind of hinting at it there a moment ago, around how can we get insight into this? We just finished having a wonderful presentation on the ins and outs of our financial operations through this audit and an inspection process to make sure that the funds are going where they say they're going. I may have missed it in the material if there was any requirement or indications of reporting back to the communities about how the funds will be allocated. Is that something that's so we're putting money into the system? Do we get a statement or something coming out of it of how it would be used?
On top of that, council member, when one of the sentences I just read that I was going to bring up, it deals with this. It says, it talks about how much they have audited right now, which is $32,000. There will be enough operation for 2 years, but the ICA will be using a sizable portion of the remaining funds for cable providers to determine whether each provider provided the proper reimbursement to the member city. So are we essentially paying for them to pay us back?
Well, they're looking at...
Because right now, as far as I understand, there are only 2 that we actually have franchise agreements with right now of the 3 mentioned. Comcast and Wide Open West. I don't believe that we have a franchise agreement with AT&T right now. So if this is a way for companies,
we do have an agreement with franchise.
It's one of the uniform franchises.
Yes.
So now, It's not on our
Not on-
cable.
Yeah, we
We're
don't
not on
get,
their
I don't
cable,
get.
no.
Steve.
No, we don't. AT is a little different than the other two cable companies. With AT&T, one of the reasons you don't see it on television is because they require a special type of box of some sort that the city would have to pay for and purchase, and the amount right now is a little high in terms of how much we're getting from AT&T. Although that number has gone up, and this is something that I'll have to take a look at. However, residents who subscribe to AT&T can view our cable our city council meetings right now through online, through the internet. So that's one of the things that we do utilize the funds for.
But like Steve mentioned, so essentially what it sounds like we're going to be doing is paying this fee now for them to pay us back for their franchise fees.
Well, they'll be looking at the franchise agreements that are before us, and they will make sure that the fees that they're paying the communities are in line with what they say the contract.
Right.
The
principal cost is, if I may, is that the ICA does occasional audits of the monies that come in and make sure that we are getting our rightful share, and that revenues of the cable providers that should be counted toward our share are in fact being counted toward our share. Several years ago, at least a half dozen years ago, I think the result of the audit was that the communities were found to have been shorted, not intentionally or fraudulently, but because of the way the cable providers had, I guess, interpreted in the course of their own bookkeeping and auditing as to what revenue should be included or not, and that resulted in some additional monies being paid to the communities, and some of the larger communities it was a rather significant amount. And so they do a periodic audit, and that I think is the primary expense, and then the legal fees related to it. And I think they're indicating that in their letter here as well. Certainly, if the audit does result in a finding that more money should be coming back to the city, I think what Mr. Durbach is saying is correct. We're paying money in order to get money back. Ideally, we are getting paid what we're supposed to be getting paid, and so that the audit is really just a double check on that, rather than a aha type of moment that we caught something.
And Mayor, City Council, we have 3 franchise agreements. We have Comcast, we have Wide Open West, and AT&T. And we have approximately, in terms of revenues that we get on an annual basis, I mean, it goes up and down depending on subscribers, but approximately anywhere from $300,000 to $327,000 we get annually from these 3 franchise agreements. And this goes to help us offset our costs for our communications department and some IT requirements. And then also the PEG franchise fees that we pay to CMN. Now, one of you had asked me a question earlier in terms of what percentage is this going to be when you look at the whole number. It's less than 1%. It's about 6.25% to be exact.
So less than 1% to pay the people to watch over the money that we're getting, to make sure we're getting the right amount.
At least right now. This could change.
I mean, it could change.
Yes.
Yeah. Seems reasonable.
Only question I have, well, I have a lot of them, but the one is, do we have representation on this ICA board?
Yes, we do. Right now, under my administration, the communications division is in my office, so I have my assistant act as the as representative to ICA, and we have our cable coordinator who is representative to CMN. As a matter of fact, she's currently the president of CMN. And
Well, it comforts me that we have someone sitting at the table. And so I think we should go ahead with this, from my point of view anyway. Are there any other questions or discussion on this matter?
Your Honor, one more point,
Yeah,
just
Mr.
so the public knows. We also have a communications committee. Now, they haven't been very active because there's really not a lot to take a look at. But the communications committee also helps us to identify how we use our cable station, any suggestions that they may have for programming, things of that nature. So we do also receive citizen input, not through ICA or CMN, but internally, just so the public knows. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Then, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on R 4414?
Kadeko,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 4?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, sir.
I'm very sorry, but we didn't take a vote on 4314.
Correct.
There should be.
Mr. Attorney, we were receiving the report from...
On the audit.
From the auditors. Did we need to have a vote on that?
Good point. There was the motion made
Right.
initially to accept,
Right,
but
that's
we
right,
did
right,
never
right.
have a vote. So it would be appropriate to have a vote to accept the
Okay.
report.
I'm very sorry.
That's fine.
That's
Let's
good-
do this one
good
first.
catch.
Let's do this one first.
Okay.
We've done the 4414. That's approved. So before we go to item number 4, we have a motion on the floor and seconded on accepting the audit report. Ms. Boucher, can you call the roll on that?
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeko,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes.
That's good.
Thank you for catching that.
Oh, thank you.
And Ms. Boucher,
Catch it.
please read item number 4.
Motion number M8014, matter of authorizing Hubble Roth and Clark, HRC, to continue with professional services related to the stormwater, asset management, and wastewater SAW grant as administered by the state of Michigan.
Is there a motion to approve M8014?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Blanchard.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Stedman. Mr. Sessa.
Okay, council, here we go on this one. I know I've probably inundated you with the SAW program information. But again, in order for us to administer this grant correctly, we are now asking you to consider approving a professional service agreement between the City of Berkeley and our engineer, Hubble Roth and Clark. Now, the reason for this agreement is so that we can pay them accordingly for their services. And under the SAW grant, we are required to approve this agreement. Now, the city attorney has reviewed this, and he is recommending it for your consideration. Now, before anybody asks me any questions, we do have our city engineer, Mr. Tom Beal here, who will explain very briefly what the SAW grant is all about and how this contract will be used.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Mr. Beal. It's been a while since you've been here, so thank you.
Thank you. As you'll recall, we went for a grant application last year in the amount of $669,000, and there was $480 million that was being allocated by the state at about $95 million a year. And out of the 6 years in the program, you were drawn in the first year, a lucky draw, which is great. 90% reimbursement on this grant. That includes the application that was put in, which you had approved last year. We are now at the point where we want to go for reimbursement on that grant application and for some of the preliminary work that was done. Derek, I was hoping was going to be back. He's out in the field right now taking care of some stuff, and he asked me to kind of explain how it's budgeted. Basically, what we're looking at here is they're splitting that grant up into 2 parts. The DPW is going to do at least $225,000 worth of that grant work, which 90% reimbursable. And that would be utilizing the televising truck that you've purchased to televise some of those sewers, and that is a reimbursable cost. It's a force account work that would be submitted back to the state. Derek has that budgeted. He also has the budgeting for the engineering portion of the project, which would involve us. Again, this is over 3 years. You're talking about a local share of about $42,000 split over 3 years, which is about $16,000 a year. That's also budgeted by the DPW, and he's got those costs covered. What will be involved in this program, just very briefly, is TVing and cleaning and televising of sewers and identifying the oldest first and some of the worst first, and determining if we have some issues that need to be taken care of. inspecting manholes, not all of them, but getting a representative sample so we can see what needs to be done in terms of long-term rehabilitation of the manholes in the system. Developing a GIS, actually getting your manholes and your combined sewer system on a GIS so that you've got a database that you can work from. It would also identify which catch basins are restricted and how many hole covers they have so that you've got a really good descriptive map long-term for your. It'll also be able to incorporate, Derek will be able to incorporate in there when they make repairs on the system, identify the date of the repairs, what was done, and that'll be put into the database so that they've got it for future reference when they're going to be making additional repairs. And this will all occur over the next 3 years, with the first year of the televising to occur as soon as the weather conditions will allow us, probably in early spring. So what we're asking for is approval of the contract with a 90% reimbursement by the state, and that will allow you to go for the first, I believe in your packet, it shows the first reimbursement request, which is in the amount of about $11,000, $10,604, which included the application and some of the preliminary work that's been done. And then we'll be able to keep getting reimbursements as we go along with the program over the next 3 years. At the completion of the program, what you're going to have is an asset management plan, which will identify over the 20-year planning period your infrastructure, your combined sewer infrastructure, what needs to be done over the 20 years, what sewers might need to be rehabbed, what's most critical to your system in terms of which sewers are more critical than others, and identify a funding mechanism. Your accounting firm, who was here earlier, will be actually asked to prepare a report and indicate how to finance that over the 20-year period to make sure that you've got those numbers covered. As I'd mentioned when you did the application, what the state of Michigan's looking for here is for the communities to get a good handle on their infrastructure and be able to say, okay, this is what we got, this is what we need, and this is how we're going to fund it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this will give us capability for GIS in the city of Berkeley, which we don't have now. This will include the software and everything for that?
That's correct.
So we will have a good computer model or a location of all of our...
You'll be able to tie down, we'll be tying down, when we do the manhole inspections, they'll have a field unit that will identify the X, Y, and Z coordinates of every manhole. As I indicated with Derek, what we'll do while we're out there, since we're going to be on a given block and there's a hydrant and a valve there, we can go ahead and shoot those at the same time and actually tie down a database for a lot of your water system as part of the program. Again, that's not reimbursable cost, but if you're there, it's not a big deal to be able to pick those additional items up. So you'll have a map system with GPS coordinates so you can find manholes. If there was a heavy, heavy snow like last winter and a hydrant was buried, you could GPS and know exactly where it was.
This is going to be a great asset to the city for the future, is knowing where our infrastructure is. But thank you.
Just to follow up on that, then does the GIS, does it have the capacity to put a unit on our fire trucks so that when they go out and they're looking for a fire hydrant in the snow?
The city will be purchasing some handheld units that will be at the DPW, but that could be shared with the fire personnel, which basically would identify X and Y coordinates if for a hydrant or whatever else you were looking for.
Exactly. Very good. Mr. Sessa.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, what I wanted to express was, yes, this will help us identify where all our infrastructure is located with regards to sewer and water, but it'll also help us to identify areas that need repair, and that's very good. So this way, we can do a little bit of planning ahead of time, and perhaps address the issue as well, as quickly as possible.
So we were very fortunate. It was a look at the draw that we...
Yes, I know we represent a lot of communities, and there's some that are still waiting for their money, and they're hoping they're going to get it, and they aren't sure if they're going to make the list. The state said they felt that maybe 80 to 85% of the communities that made the application initially will get funded eventually, but there's going to be 15% or so that probably aren't going to get funded. Who knows if they put more money up.
This is fundamentally a state initiative.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Mr.
Just
Sessa?
one more remark. I know, last remark, some of you have concerns, because, yeah, it's going to show not just the good, but also perhaps some potential items that we need to address. But I'm very confident in that, because we've done a really good job at checking our sewers. We've done a good lining program over the past few years, and I think that's very, very, very important. I think in a lot of cities that I've worked in the past, I can't think of many cities that have put aside some dollars just to do sewer lining and things of that nature. So I think I think we're ahead of that.
Well, this will make the prioritization of sewer lining in the future much easier, because we will have a priority list of the sewers and where to go. Now Derek has to come up with it, but this will give them actual Better
And
information.
if you have repairs where you have dig-ups, you'll be able to log those into the system and then pull it up on the database and say, well, this one had 5 repairs over the last 3 years. This is a higher priority than one that didn't have those types of repairs. So it gives you a good representative sample.
Yes.
Any other discussion on this item? Thank you, Tom. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M 8014?
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 5?
Motion number M8114, matter of authorizing the mayor to execute a third-party specialized services operating assistance contract between SMART and the City of Berkeley for public transportation services primarily designed for senior citizens and persons who are handicapped. The contract period for this program is from October 1st, 2014 to September 30th, 2015. The City of Berkeley will be awarded a total amount of $22,880.
Is there a motion to approve M 8114?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Edgar with support by Councilmember Kadeco. Mr. Sessa.
Council, as you know, this is an annual item that appears for your consideration, and I'm pleased to say that at least this figure represents an increase of about $1,095 from the previous year. So we got a little bit extra. And what I'd like to do now is turn it over to our Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Tom Caldwell, so that he can elaborate a little further as to the use of these dollars. Mr. Caldwell?
Thank you. Good evening. So this item you've seen before. There's a few items where we get funding from SMART to run our assisted transportation program, and this is one of the pieces. As Madam City Manager mentioned, there is a slight increase this year, which will go to the operations of the program. It's still a wildly popular program. In a lot of ways, this is the ride that some of the seniors get, and it's what they depend on. So it's an important piece of what we do.
Any questions for Mr. Caldwell? Councilmember Kadeco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Yes, this is a great program, and I just was wondering, from last year to this year, have you seen an increase or a decrease with the usage of the SMART by the seniors?
Yeah, the numbers are up about 6%, and it really kind of sways, depending on, over the years. I think last year we're actually down a little bit, so we're probably pretty even to where we were, with the numbers in 2012.
And I'm not sure if you know this offhand, but the boundaries where the SMART bus will go for seniors?
Yeah, so we go up to 16 Mile, down to 8 Mile, and then it's DeQuinder to Lasser. And so it's a pretty big area, and the ride needs to originate in Berkeley. So.
And how far in advance should they contact you?
They need to give us a 2 days of advance warning, and then the dispatcher takes calls from 9 in the morning till 11:30 in the morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on this? Hearing none, then, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M 8114?
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 6?
Motion number M8214, matter of approving donation from the Beaumont Foundation of $10,000 to the Senior Transportation Program.
Is there a motion to approve M 8214?
Move to approve.
Moved to
M
approve by
8214.
Councilmember Kadeco,
Support.
support by Councilmember Baker. Mr. Sessa.
Council, again, this appears before you on an annual basis, and I can't say enough great things about Beaumont Hospital for doing this. This is a donation of $10,000 that goes into our senior transportation program and is utilized just for that purpose. And thanks to them, it helps to offset our costs. So, Mr. Caldwell, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Very good.
Very wise, Tom. It should be easy to accept $10,000. Without, yeah. And we certainly appreciate Beaumont Hospital. They
Definitely.
are a good neighbor and, of course, a world-class healthcare facility as well. we're blessed to have them in our general area. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M8214?
Blanchard.
Yes.
Edgar.
Yes.
Kadeco.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Turbrack.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 7?
Motion number M8314, matter of awarding a fiscal year 2014 contract for senior home chore snow removal service to Logan's Lawn Care. Total cost to be incurred is $5,000, which will be paid from account number 275-940-818-031.
Is there a motion to approve M8314?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Support.
by Councilmember Stedman with support by Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack. Mr. Sessa.
Council, as you may recall, whenever we allocate CDBG funds or community development block grant funds, we allocate certain monies for certain items, and this is one of them. And this item is being funded through community development block grant funds. It is budgeted. The city attorney has reviewed the agreement or the contract, and we are recommending it for your consideration. I don't know if Mr. Caldwell would like to add anything else. I suppose the only thing that he may add, before he may want to stop up, is that this is an agreement that we are recommending City Council to consider to Logan's Lawn Care. And basically, what he is charging will be $27 for a regular lot or for snow removal, and $32 for a much larger corner lot. The Parks and Recreation Department is recommending this for your consideration. Mr. Caldwell?
Yeah, this is another item that you've seen before. The difference being there's usually 2 or 3 more bidders that we get to work with or decide upon. The first time we put the bid out, we didn't get anybody to respond. So this was the second bid where Logan came in to help us out again. We currently have 37 seniors that are in need. Once the snow starts to fly, that number will increase. And so, really this is just to let everybody know that that's a lot for one person to handle. And really to anybody that's out there watching this tonight, if there's a senior in your neighborhood, there's a good chance we're going to need to go to some of our volunteer organizations in town to help a few of these groups out, just because it's not very realistic for Logan's. And he's worked with us before. He does a fine job. He's a good man. It's just a lot of people to throw onto his existing workload. So we're likely going to need to get creative and figure out a way to take care of our people in need.
Is this coordinated through your office?
It is.
Parks and Rec Department?
It is.
So if there are seniors watching and feel that they qualify for this assistance, and the snow flies like it did last year, they'll be able to call Parks and Rec and work out some, hopefully.
Oh, and we absolutely will. We kind of had a brainstorming session, and we talked about a few ideas. And once the contract's executed, we'll touch base with Mr. LaPerriere and figure out exactly how many people he can handle. Sue's already, made a map of the 37 people we have and where they live and the areas that they're at, so that we really can focus on whether it's a Boy Scout troop that's in the Angel area versus the Patton Gill area. So we really have some ideas together on how we're going to take care of this, and we absolutely will. So to answer your question, yes, if there's people in need, give us a call, and we'll take care of them.
Thank you. Councilmember Edgar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How do seniors, how are they determined their eligibility for this?
Well, really, all the seniors, to date, anyone that's asked for it, we've taken care of them. Now, this program works on a copay type system, and it's all based on their income. And so their copay, their income will let us know, what they have to pay. So, you know, Mr. LaPerriere is gonna get $27 for a regular lot, 32 for a corner, or, you know, a bigger area, and then their copay will decide, you know, what we're gonna what we're gonna pay and what the resident will pay.
Great, thank you.
Any additional discussion on this? Seeing none, then Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M 8314?
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 8?
Motion number M 8414, matter of reappointing Gerald L. Abing to serve on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term expiring July 2017.
Is there a motion to approve M 8414?
Move to approve on 8414.
Move to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack with support by Councilmember Kadeco. Mr. Sessa.
Council, as you know, this is a reappointment. Mr. Eben has been a resident of our city for more than 2 years. In his report or his application, he states, with regards to his interests and qualifications, he states, I believe that the activities and venues offered by Parks and Recreation allow Berkeley's residents to come together and build and foster that sense of community. He also states that he believes that his background and experience has allowed him to develop the ability to work and communicate effectively with people of various backgrounds, which he believes is crucial to communicate the mission and build support for the Department of Parks and Recreation. We are very pleased with his work, and we are recommending his application for your consideration.
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
Thank you. As the liaison, I would like to thank Mr. Aben for reapplying this year. Since he's been on the board, he's a very thoughtful, engaging member, and he takes excellent notes. So, won the secretary's job, and he's doing it very ably. So, Aben, able, you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you would like to say anything, Mr. Eben. If I can be so bold, Mr. Mayor.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the reappointment. Apologize, I have a little bit of a cold. I want to reiterate what I said in my application about Parks and Rec. When we first moved to town, we're new, and what we've soon realized is many of the people have been here forever, and whether they came 20, 30 years ago and stayed, or are third or fourth generation. And I think there's something about the community that Parks and Rec has a lot to do with it, that we have great parks in the city, activities and things going on, and I think that's key to building the community that we have come to love and call home. And so I am very proud of the fact that I'm able to serve the community and give back to the community that I've really and enjoy meeting the monthly meetings and talking about the future of Parks and Rec. And so I appreciate the support. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your contribution to the city. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M 8414?
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now we come to the communications portion of tonight's meeting. And I believe Councilmember Stedman is up first.
Okay. First of all, I was just reading something from the Friends of the Berkeley Library. Now that you're all into holiday shopping, think about using www.smile.amazon.com for your online shopping. Customers who use it are able to select a charity, like the Friends of the Berkeley Public Library, to receive a portion of their purchase. So using Smile does not cost the shopper anything, but it seems to have the same deals that regular Amazon does. So think about using that. And the Beautification Committee, I believe, is still accepting nominations for beautiful lights for homes. And if you have any nominations, get them to the Beautification Committee at City Hall or online. They have a website. and I'm not sure quite what it is right now. But the deadline will be the meeting that we have on the 10th, Wednesday the 10th. We'll be reviewing all of the nominations. Okay.
Very good.
That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to remind everybody that this coming Saturday is the Holiday Lights Parade. It's also Berkeley Hometown Holidays. There are a number of activities the Chamber of Commerce has that will be going on during the day. I don't even know what all of them are, but there are a number of them all through the city. So, and the parade will commence at 5:30 with a lot of decorated vehicles and marching units, and coming at the end of the parade will be Santa Claus. This Saturday at 5:30, the weather will be beautiful. That's not a problem.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple of quick things. First, the honor roll for the city of Berkeley continues. Our community was recently named to the list of best 50 suburbs in America by MSN.com. I know we've been talking about that and publicizing that. That adds to the long list of accomplishments and recognitions that our community has deserved and received, including, the 5th safest city in the state of Michigan, and the best, most affordable suburb in America, our terrific schools, and so much more. So it's tremendous to see not only the outpouring of support and engagement from terrific volunteers that help make such a big difference across all of our various committees, but the way in which the residents and the businesses come together with support from staff and all the departments that we have to really make this a wonderful place. It's neat to see that that's being acknowledged. So we're pleased again that we made the 50 best suburbs in America. We made that list, which is really cool. So it was Helen Keller who once said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Wishing you happiness." And again, that's the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Wishing you happiness. And I wish you all happiness here. Hopefully you had a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving opportunity to reconvene with family or whatever your traditions, wherever they take you. And as we look ahead to the upcoming holidays, as mentioned, do so with gratitude and appreciation and joy. And I also look forward to seeing everybody on Saturday at the parade. And as we think about this, I kind of want to end on a little bit of a safety note here again. It's so simple, and I saw 2 people even on the way here doing this. Just don't text and drive, guys. Don't do it. It's so easy. It can wait is a slogan that's out there now. It can wait for texting and driving, especially as the weather changes and this winter thing really kind of settles in. I know there's always the first couple of snows and rain and sleety stuff that make it a little bit tricky, but it can wait. We become more dependent on technology. We've talked about that a couple times today. If you need to interact with somebody, just pull over. I mean, because not only are you putting yourself at risk, but somebody else. And especially as we get to this time of year when we think about family and loved ones, both near and far, it's too important. So just set that aside and focus on your function, which is to get from point A to point B, so that we can all have safe and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you recall, last time I gave you all a preview of what was coming up in the Parks and Rec Department in the month of December, but since you were all focused on Thanksgiving, you probably didn't listen. So I'm going to give it to you again. Starting off with this Saturday, as was mentioned, not only do we have the Holiday Lights Parade and Santa and all of the great people that are going to be participating in that parade, but December 6th from 2 to 5, we have Jump-A-Rama Holiday Extravaganza at the Berkeley Community Center. Parks and Rec is teaming up with Jump-A-Rama. Activities include Pictures with Santa, Craft Station, where crafts will be sent to the military, which is fantastic, bounce houses, Elmo, and much, much more. Now, this is the part where it would have behooved you to pay attention to me. If you paid by December 1st, today, it was only 15. After, it's 20. So, sorry, but I tried. I did my part. Admission is a half price, though, if a toy is brought and toys are donated. So, again, that is December 6th, this Saturday. December 7th, Skate with Santa from 5 to 6:50 p.m. That is at the Ice Arena. Donate 2 or more canned goods and skate for free. Donations will be given to our local St. Vincent de Paul. So again, not just great activities, but also activities with a purpose. You'll note the theme there. December 11th, the senior holiday party at Farina's Banquet Center. That's always a very popular event every year. Many people look forward to a great time there. That's 12:30 to 2:30. You can sign up for that event at the Berkeley Community Center. Again, that is the senior holiday party, December 11th. And December 13th, the very popular Candy Cane Lane will be back. That is from 10 to 4 at the Community Center. And for those of you that may not know what Candy Cane Lane is, it's a craft show. It's a craft show where you can get holiday-themed crafts for either gifts or for somebody else. They have raffles, I believe every hour. I think there's even a candy cane cafe where you can get some refreshments, maybe lunch, and that's in conjunction with the Berkeley Junior Women's Club. So that is coming up on December 13th. Again, that is from 10 to 4. And again, I look forward to seeing everybody December 6th. Hopefully you're able to make it for the parade after I see you at Jump-A-Rama Holiday Extravaganza. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Edgar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, once again, we can see some of the elements that make our city such an exceptional place to live, one of the top 50. Our public safety department always fills me with pride, and tonight was no exception with a new sergeant on watch. Congratulations. The Dad's Club, been a mainstay in our city for 50, 60 years, adding to and augmenting various areas to improve the quality of our lives. And for this, we're very grateful. The parade on Friday of the Dream Cruise is the highlight of the event, and without Roseland Park Cemetery, this event could not occur. Their generosity is certainly appreciated. The competent presentation of our audit shows clearly that our government has been keeping our expenditures in order, showing financial responsibility, and acting proactively, addressing issues that will come into effect in the future. The mobility provided by SMART for our seniors, again, adds to the quality of life for our citizens. Additionally, Beaumont Hospital, making their generous contribution, fosters a sense of community between the hospital and our citizens. Hats off to Parks and Rec for assuring that our seniors will be taken care of when the snow flies. Make sure you attend that holiday parade. Lots of pretty lights.
Thank you. Councilmember Cadecle.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On December 19th, I had the opportunity to go to the community center for the senior Thanksgiving potluck luncheon, and it was really nice, well attended. And I wanted to thank Sue Thornton and the entire staff at Parks and Recreation for having this event every year. On Saturday, November 22nd, you may recall at our last meeting, we were invited by former Public Safety Officer Mike Garnett to attend a service at Sawyer Fuller Funeral Home for 6 soldiers whose remains were never claimed. And I attended that service, and I also had the opportunity that following Tuesday on November 24th to go to the Great Lakes Cemetery, the military cemetery in Holly, for their final resting place. And I want to thank Mike Garnett, our Berkeley chaplain, Lieutenant Jim Smith, Sergeant Corey Miller, PSO Officer Brian Lady, the entire honor guard for both Saturday and Tuesday, Sergeant Justin Frost, Mr. and Mrs. Fuller were there, Jerry Marley from Sawyer Fuller, the American Legion Post 374, the VFW Post 9222, and Nancy Line, our communications director, taped this, so you will have an opportunity to see this moving service. I feel it's important to mention the 6 officers who were laid to rest. Lloyd Howard Brandymore, William James Finucane, Raymond John LeBaire, Milton N. Stewart, Okie Edward Thaxton, and Edward Nicholas Walsh. And again, I want to thank everyone involved that allowed this ceremony to take place. On a lighter note, today I had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Lenny Waldman's class, 1st and 5th hour sociology class. Told him how the government's run and everything, and Of course, one of the main questions, I asked them how much they thought we made. And the lowest was $50,000 a year, and the highest was $100,000 a year. So I think that maybe the next time we budget, we should talk to this class and see what they can do for us. I'm looking forward to the Holiday Lights Parade this Saturday. And to my distinguished colleague, Mayor Pro Tem's father, Roy, who's resting hopefully comfortably at Beaumont, and my friend, I want to wish him a speedy recovery. Thank you.
Mr. Sessa.
City Council, I really don't have too much to report, except just to remind our residents to please visit our website at berkeleymish.org so that you can receive much of this information. I know that Councilmember Stedman was talking about the holiday lights, and those of you that are anxious to go out there and apply, please go to Berkeley, BERKLEY, and then BAC@gmail.com to send them some information that you're interested in being part of the contest. December 10th is the deadline. With all the holidays that's coming up, I'm pleased to report also that the DDA is very much a part of this as well. They are providing the trolley that we usually do, and so you'll be seeing that coming up. And I really can't end my report without again acknowledging our volunteers. Residents, we do have some openings that are available out there. I ask you to please go to our website. We did update it, and you can see some of the openings that are out there. You know, most of the time when we come to these meetings, there are two individuals that are here. One because he's he's our chair of our planning commission, and he's supposed to be here, Mr. David Barnett, but he's here. But also Ms. Josephine Brewer, who's here without a doubt, and I'm so pleased. She's part of our Parks and Recreation Department or committee, and she's part of our department. What? That's correct. I had it right the first time, but you know, we can't do it without you, and I can't thank you both enough for your time. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sabuda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just like to, one item, I just want to mention to everyone that the audit report that was accepted this evening will be on the website tomorrow. So if anyone is interested in taking a look at it, they can see it on the website. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Tony.
Also, I have nothing to report this evening.
Well, it falls to me to thank everybody involved in the audit. Our financial department, our department heads, our administration. It was very impressive to see that our numbers reflect the care with which we manage the people's money. It takes a lot of work to mind every dollar and stretch it as far as we can. But like I mentioned to them when they were here, we also have challenges going forward. We have roads that need to be repaired. We have infrastructure that needs to be re-examined and restored to functionality. And we have IT needs as well going forward. I'm very pleased about the GIS program that's coming in under the SAW grant, because that will give us additional technology. But there's no technology needed to welcome the big guy on Saturday. Santa Claus will be here, and he will provide an opportunity for the boys and girls of the city to come and have a little chat with him at the gazebo at the end of the parade. Now, I have familiarity with all these little boys and girls. I get the opportunity to go to schools to read to the youngsters. And I too have a little story akin to Councilmember Kideckel. These high school students that you talked to were only willing to offer you $100,000 or $50,000 to be on the council. Well, Mr. Finance Director, the second graders that I spoke to recently are convinced that I should be making $1 million.
They get wiser as they get older.
$1 million to be the mayor. So it's wonderful to have the opportunity actually to go to the schools and be with these children and help them understand how local government works and the kinds of things we get to decide here, so that someday they will be sitting in these seats, managing another generation of issues for the community. So, on that note, then, a motion to adjourn will be appropriate.
To adjourn.
Adjourned by Councilmember Kideckel with support by Councilmember Stedman. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Stedman? Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
Kadeco?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. The December 1st council meeting is adjourned.